For months, I was called rude, unfriendly, fake, all because I refused to smile at anyone who smiled back. The whole building thought I was the problem, until they found out what the sweetheart of 509 was doing behind my back with my mother-in-law. Since moving into this building, I've never been the kind of neighbor who attends hallway parties or hangs out in the condo group chatting, not because I'm rude, but because I learned the hard way that the more you expose yourself, the more people feel entitled to invade you. And I'd been through too much to give anyone the freedom. But that didn't stop the labels from appearing. In the building, they started calling me the rude one of 408. They said I was stuck up, snobbish, unloved, all because I didn't smile for no reason. Because I didn't mix with people who complimented me to my face and talked behind my back. And, mainly, because I avoided running into a certain neighbor, the so-called wonderful resident of 509. He was everyone's favorite. You know, that overly friendly guy, always with a ready compliment, an exaggerated good morning, a way of speaking that seemed charming. To those who didn't know the other side, the elderly women adored him. The married women said he was polite. Their husbands treated him like a nice person, and he, of course, made a point of maintaining that image. Except for me, because I saw him completely. My discomfort began when he started to compliment my mother-in-law frequently. At first it sounded natural. Your mother-in-law is an elegant woman. Donna Maria is so special. A jewel in this building. But over time, the tone changed. The looks changed. The compliments became too specific. And what had been affection turned into something that made me uncomfortable. My mother, on the other hand, seemed enchanted by him. She said he was polite, that he always helped her with her bags, that he was a true gentleman. I started to find it strange, but who can go around accusing someone of being invasive or inappropriate without proof? So I did what I always did. I shut myself off. I distanced myself from both of them, and I was judged for it. Whispers began in the hallways. The daughter-in-law is jealous. She doesn't like her mother-in-law to be happy. Many women wish they had a mother-in-law like that and treat the poor thing badly. They even called me ungrateful. And of course, the neighbor from 509 maintained his character, always smiling, greeting people exaggeratedly, speaking loudly to show how much he was loved. My mother-in-law, growing closer and closer to him, began treating me coldly. She avoided conversations, cut me off when I arrived, defended the neighbor, as if he were part of the family. Meanwhile, I watched and swallowed, because I knew, if I said anything, I'd look like the crazy one, the bitter wife, the jealous daughter-in-law, the problematic neighbor. But behind that white door at 509, there was too much going on. I noticed the glances, the subtle touches, the excuses for quick visits. I sensed something was wrong, but no one would believe me. I was the cold one, the closed-off one, the one who didn't participate, the one who, according to the neighbors, needed to learn to smile more. Meanwhile, the real problem was smiling at everyone. And it was like that, carrying this weight, that I began to observe everything more closely. Because if no one was going to defend me, then I would have to do it alone. And when the truth finally came out, when I exposed what that neighbor was doing to my mother-in-law, right under the neighbors' noses, it was like a fire had been put out with gasoline. And then, the one who was cold, became the woman who silenced the entire building, with a single revelation. What disturbed me most wasn't just the neighbor from 509's overly nice manner. It was how he seemed to know exactly who to behave with. He never made a shameless joke in front of their husbands. He never crossed the line with the strictest women, but with the most vulnerable, needy, or isolated women. He was a different man, and it was with my mother-in-law that he made the most progress. At first, I thought she was just needy, widowed for a few years, with her children grown. She spent a lot of time alone. My husband and I always provided support, but nothing replaces a constant presence, a routine, and affection. And that's where he infiltrated the situation. He started by showing up to help with grocery bags. Later, he offered rides to the market. He helped change light bulbs, offered leftover cakes, and stayed for coffee. My mother-in-law, delighted, thought it was all normal. He's just kind, she said. He has a good heart, a rare thing these days. But I saw something else, that I saw the way he touched her arm, as if it were nothing. How he stretched simple conversations into long afternoons at the concierge. How he seemed to want to keep her. dependent on his favor. One day I unexpectedly entered her apartment and he was there in the kitchen, his shirt open to his chest, laughing at something she was saying, his hand too close to her waist. He backed away as soon as he saw me. My mother-in-law was embarrassed, and I pretended not to see. But inside, I was on fire. The problem was, I still had no proof, just feelings. And, as we all know, women are discredited when they rely on instinct, especially when faced with a man who was good at talking, friends with everyone, and had an unblemished reputation. I tried to talk to my husband. He was torn. He said he also thought the neighbor was too pushy, but that he doubted his mother was involved. She doesn't fit that profile, he said. Maybe you're exaggerating, but I knew better. My mother-in-law was different, more vain, more mysterious. She secretly exchanged messages, avoided discussing schedules. Sometimes she'd leave saying she was going to the pharmacy and come back with a new perfume. And who showed up right after? Him, with an innocent look, with that smile that made me want to scream. One day, I found a message from her open on my phone while she was taking a shower. It was from him. Yesterday was incredible. You make me forget the world. I miss you already. I stood still, staring at the screen. The ground disappeared. The veins in my hand throbbed. When she came out of the bathroom and saw me with my cell phone in my hand, she froze. She didn't try to deny it. She didn't scream. She just said, "You don't understand. He makes me feel alive again." I didn't answer. I left, went to my room, and cried like I hadn't cried in a long time. It was true. The darling of the building, the neighbor everyone admired, was getting involved with my mother in law, maybe out of convenience, maybe out of need, maybe out of pure power play. But the cruelest scenario was, I, labeled as ungrateful, as a cold daughter-in-law, as a bitter neighbor, while he, the one who caused it all, was hailed as a saint. At that moment, I understood that knowing wasn't enough. I needed to show it. I started gathering evidence, screenshots, schedules, surveillance footage. I managed to get hold of an audio recording she accidentally recorded while talking to him on speakerphone, a snippet of him saying, "No one will ever know. They treat you like an old lady, but only I know how different you are. You're mine." It was enough, not just for me, but for everyone. I knew the day to reveal everything was near, and when that day arrived, the entire building realized what was really happening. The scandal that erupted afterward made everyone swallow every judgment they'd ever made about me. Asterisk. I hadn't slept the night before. I knew the next day would be definitive. It would either free me, or destroy me forever. But I could no longer allow a lie to continue suffocating my truth. The residents' meeting was scheduled to discuss some random issue, leakage in the roof, problems with the electronic gate, things that always mask what really drives life in a condominium, the stories behind the doors. I was there, my husband was by my side, and of course he was too, the neighbor from 509, all friendly, hugging the elderly, smiling at the children's mothers, offering water to the building manager as if he were the president of the building. Himself. My mother-in-law arrived a little later, elegantly dressed, her hair styled, as if she were preparing to see someone special. She'd been avoiding me with her eyes since discovering the message. We pretended nothing had happened, but the silence between us weighed like a concrete wall. I waited for the right moment, not during the building manager's speech, not during the discussion of bills, but when the general matters began. I raised my hand. I asked to speak. At first, the residents seemed confused. After all, what did I, the quiet, cold neighbor who never participated in anything, want to say? But the first sentence was enough to capture everyone's attention. I was judged for a long time in this building, for not smiling, for not mingling, for not fitting in. They labeled me rude, bitter. Today, I want to explain why. Silence filled the room. All eyes turned to me, and then, without changing my tone, without attacking, without shouting, I said, walked away because I noticed something no one else seemed to see, an inappropriate relationship between the resident of 509 and my mother-in-law. The first reaction was astonishment, the second, disbelief, and he, the neighbor, tried to laugh. "You're kidding, right? This is ridiculous." But I was prepared. Grabbed my phone, I put it on speakerphone, and I played the audio. "No one will ever know. They treat you like an old lady, but only I know how different you are. You're mine." The faces changed instantly. Some put their hands to their mouths. Others looked at my mother-in-law. who was now flushed, trembling, trying to look away. The building manager asked for silence, but there was no more control. You took advantage of her neediness. Someone shouted. I always thought there was something strange about your friendly demeanor. Another neighbor said. He tried to argue. He said it was all in my head. He said the recording was out of context. He said we were just talking, but no one bought the charade anymore. And then my mother-in-law broke down through tears. She apologized. I was wrong. I felt seen by someone after so long. I thought it was affection, that it was care. I didn't see any malice. But now I see it. I'm sorry. That's when I knew. It wasn't just him who had manipulated the image, the building, and my mother. He had manipulated everything with the charm of a predator, and anyone who suspected like me was treated like crazy. The meeting ended ahead of schedule. The building manager informed him that action would be taken, that he would receive a formal warning, and that, if any further inappropriate behavior occurred, a class action lawsuit for harassment and disturbing the peace would be filed. In the elevator. No one said anything, but the looks on their faces said it all. Finally, the truth had been spoken out loud. And the man who smiled at everyone in the hallways, he walked out the door of the building without being able to look anyone in the eye. Asterisk. After that assembly, the atmosphere in the building was never the same. What had once been a whisper was now silence. Not the heavy, judgmental silence that had surrounded me before, but a silence of respect. People finally understood that they didn't know everything, that what appears isn't always what it is, and that perfect neighbor, so beloved by many, was, in fact, someone who hid behind his own charisma to cross unforgivable boundaries. In the following days, he was barely seen. He stopped smiling in the hallways. He stopped greeting passersby. He started taking the stairs, avoiding contact just like I used to do before the truth came out. And that was when the irony hit hard. The same people who had once avoided me now looked at me with respect. Some even came up to me, discreetly, with a sincere apology. I misjudged you. I'm sorry you were too strong. We didn't have the courage to see it. I won't lie. Part of me wanted to reject those requests, but I knew that staying strong required more than holding a grudge. It required awareness, so I listened. Accepted. Not to be cordial, but because I knew that I was the one who lived through it all. I was the one who endured the stares, the backstabbing, the isolation. I was the one who endured it. And I was also the one who exposed the truth without shouting, without losing my temper. After the exposure, my mother-in-law distanced herself for a while. She was embarrassed, ashamed, but little by little, she grew closer. We had a long conversation. I cried, she cried, and even if trust doesn't return overnight, something was reborn there, the truth between us. She recognized that she had let herself be led by a manipulative man who had confused attention with affection, and affection with seduction. And worst of all, she allowed herself to turn her back on me, who had always been by her side. I accepted her apology, but I made it clear I would never again accept silence, not out of embarrassment, nor because of false reputations. The neighbor from 509 didn't last long after that. 3 weeks, tops. One day, he simply disappeared. He took off his fake smiles, his good guy facade, his calculated good mornings, and left. He didn't leave a note, he didn't say goodbye, but his absence was a collective relief. The building began to breathe easier. Meetings went back to discussing leaks and bills. Conversations at the concierge desk went back to revolving around plants, recipes, and soccer. And me, I went back to being the woman I'd always been. Reserved, yes, but now respected. Today, when I pass neighbors, I no longer need to smile to please. I smile when I want to, when I trust, when I know I'm among people who have learned that silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's just preparation for the right cry at the right time. And if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's never underestimate a silent woman. She may be observing, putting together pieces, waiting for the right moment to dismantle the theater, and when she speaks, no one will be able to silence her. The neighborhood judged me, they singled me out, they excluded me, but all it took was one revealed truth, just one to turn the whole game around. And now, the entire building remembers, not the gossip, not the lie, but the woman who had the courage to say out loud what everyone preferred to pretend they didn't see. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to swallow a lot to prove you were right, leave a like, subscribe to the channel and share this video, asterisk asterisk